Welcome back. And welcome back to another video where I'm going to continue this format I've been doing for a few weeks now, where I've just been answering some of your questions, just speaking freely and giving you the same information that I would give my clients if they asked me these questions. And I find it really interesting that so many of your questions are the same as the questions I get from CEOs all over the world. It's really interesting. So I think all of this can be really helpful for you because you have the same questions they have. And I really enjoy that. So please, in the comments, keep asking your questions. I can't get to all of them yet, but I'm going to because I really enjoy this. And this is just a great way to make some videos and give you what I think is really good information. So that's what I'm going to do. And in this format, I'm going to go through a few questions. I'll try to give you a short answer to the questions first, and then I'll go into more detail. And as you know, I sometimes go into too much detail, but I'll share what I think is the right information and give that to you. And that's how we're going to go through this. So if that's okay, let's get started with our first question. And somebody asked, how can I pause without sounding unsure? Now, this is a great question. And what I find is most people are just not comfortable pausing when they're speaking English. And many times you're not confident pausing in your native language. And you think that the other person is getting bored or something. But pausing can really be your friend. So how can I pause without sounding unsure? You know, I would think about these three things. First, what I really believe in is speaking in short groups of words and then pause. And I'll give you an example of that later. Next, I would say stay silent instead of or as you're thinking, but don't say or Replace it with a pause. You sound much more professional. And third, use small words like and but to really, really help you pause. And then you can just keep talking smoothly. And this, but pause this. It really works great. Let me explain these three. So, again, most people think that pausing makes them sound nervous or not confident. I think the opposite is true. Your goal is to communicate a message. And if I just continue on like this and I say, look, it's really important, you need to understand all these different things, and this is the way it's going to be, it's really difficult to listen to. I'll try to repeat that. I don't remember exactly what I said, but if I said, well, the goal here is to communicate. And what you want to do is to be able to communicate a message. When I pause in the middle of these, it really works well. So it gives you confidence, shows that you know what you're doing here. Okay? So let's look at the first one, where I talk about speaking in groups of words. Here's a sentence. Your delivery during the presentation was confident and it was very motivating. Okay, that's fine. I pronounced everything nicely, said everything. But what if I put these into some groups of words? Instead, I said something like, your delivery during the presentation was confident and it was very motivating. Now, that's a whole other level of communication. Just by taking a simple sentence and putting it into three groups of words, it really, really helps the communication here. How you can communicate your message so much more effectively. And I think that's incredibly important. So that's what I would do to be able to do that. The next thing I talked about was staying silent instead of using ums or ahs. Lots of times, people, when they're trying to speak English, they can't remember a word, they can't think of how to structure the sentence, and so it becomes, well, I think the best way, and instead of doing that, just pause. And where I think there's a great place to pause is before you speak. And so it's think a little bit, just pause at the beginning. And if it goes something like this, I think the best way to do this is to just take your time, be patient, and you will see great results. And when you do something like that, it really changes everything. And you're just staying silent. And I find if you can get rid of your ums and your ahs and not make it your first sound that comes out of your mouth when you're speaking, then the rest of the ums and ahs will disappear during whatever your conversation is. So pause a little bit at the beginning before you say something instead of saying or ah. And as you start thinking and feeling, and you're thinking about some word and you're trying to think, oh, the most important thing I want to do today is, don't say just pause. Oh, the most important thing I want to do today is really give you a great message of how you can communicate confidently. And it works great, but it takes some training and some practice. So give that a try. And then let's look at the last one where I asked you to use small words. Words like and, but, or, and really use these to help you pause. And let me give you an example. Let's just take a simple sentence here that would be, like this. A calm and collected response can make discussion straightforward and productive. So if you have an and in there, it's great to use it as a place to pause because you're connecting this and that. And if you can pause with your and, it really makes it effective to be able to let your listener know that there are two things there. Same thing with a but, same thing with an or. Well, I really feel that most of the time we should use this process. But what? When I pause like that, I'm going to give the opposite side of something really effective. Or an or means you can choose this or that. And you emphasize your and, your but, or your or, and it gives you a great opportunity to pause during that time. And it makes your message really, really clean and effective. So give that a try because I believe in those really strongly and they work great. All right. Let's move on to our next question here. And the next question was, how do I sound more confident when I don't know all the words? This is something I find all the time with people because everybody's trying to use their perfect English. But I would say three things here again. Focus on your main idea. Really important. Use simple, clear language. And third, speak a little slower. When you combine these, it really works well. So when I say focus on your main idea, to me, what I coach all the time is how do you communicate? You're trying to communicate some message you have to another person. Just focus on your idea. If you can add some feeling to that, I really feel strong about this, but when you focus on your message and not English, your communication is so much better. So really focus on your message. Don't worry about your perfect grammar or using the perfect words because the perfect words never come. They never come in any language. I don't have the perfect words. Certainly don't have them when I'm making these videos. I can't, it's just normal that you're not going to remember all the words at the right time. So stop worrying about it. Just do the best you can, but really focus on your message. And then your communication is so much more simple. And again, how do you sound more confident when you don't know all the words? Don't worry about using all my best words in English when I'm communicating with somebody. Nobody cares. Really, they just don't care. It's like grammar. They don't care about your grammar. They don't care about your perfect words. They care about your message. So use simple and clear language, and it really works well. Don't try to use some fancy word you just learned last week on YouTube or something. Just use simple language that really helps communicate your message. Because maybe the other person isn't confident in English either. And just because you use some fancy idiom or new word, who knows if they know that word or that idiom. So be nice to your audience. Use simple, clear language. You don't get extra points because you use some fancy words. Just communicate your message with really simple and clear language. And I mean that. Just focus on that. Most people worry about this, and don't worry about it. Okay? Last one, the last point I tried to make here is speak a little slower. And in general, I speak slow. But I do it because I think it really helps the listener understand what I have to say. And you see, when I put some pause in and some speaking slow in there, I think it makes communication much more effective. And you don't need to worry about, oh, am I using the right word here? Oh, I forgot my words. Just speak slow. And honestly, when I train my clients to speak slower, they think of much better words. When I train my clients to speak slower and include pauses, then all of a sudden, all these great words just kind of naturally come to them. And you really do speak so much more confidently. All right, let's move on let's make this the last question today. And people ask me about idioms all the time. And so this question is, what's the best way to use idioms in business English? My answer is don't. It really is. But if I'm going to give you a little bit more professional answer, it's don't worry about using idioms a lot. And yeah, I think you always need to learn idioms in full sentences, and then practice idioms with something like ChatGPT before you start using them. So people love idioms. Non-native speakers love them, but they're so easy to make a mess or make mistakes with that I would never worry about it. And if you're speaking with non-native speakers, and you're trying to use idioms, and the other person, English isn't a native language for them, it's impossible for them to understand. So just because your English is great and you found some great idioms you love, doesn't mean your communication is going to be great. So relax and don't use them with non-native speakers. And if you're going to use them with native speakers, you better be really confident, because they're really easy to make a mess with. So my real big answer is don't use them. They're great to learn, and it really helps in your listening, especially if you're listening to native speakers. And they will come, and you will find some that become more natural for you. But they're so not natural that it's really difficult. So I guess just don't worry about them is the biggest message I could give you. If you really want them and you really want to make sure you use these idioms, well, then you better learn them in full sentences, not just learn the idiom, memorize the definition. You got to figure out how you're going to use these. And so there's different ways to do that, but you're going to find a whole list of how people use this specific idiom in a bunch of example sentences. And you know, from my deep learning method, that's what I do. I'll introduce an idiom and I'll give 4 example sentences using it. Then I'll ask people to make their own example sentence, and I'll give them some feedback on that. And that's just the start, because just because you go through that once, it doesn't mean you're going to remember this crazy idiom. So relax and use these things in sentences. And I think when I say use them in sentences, let's go to the last point I was trying to make. And okay, so you can use them in sentences, but you need some feedback. And to me, the best tool is using something like ChatGPT Voice or any of the AI voice models, and saying, look, I've got an idiom I'm trying to use. Here's my example sentence. Please let me know if I'm using this in a natural way. And then you'll get some feedback as to if you are or if you're not. And it takes a lot of practice to make idioms work well for you. So focus on just a few of them at the beginning. If you really love some of these, and just focus on them, but practice and practice and practice so they become natural and normal for you using them during your speaking. Because if you're not naturally using them, you're going to come across as not very confident, and it almost looks silly when you make a mess with idioms. Idioms are so tricky to me, and people love them. I get it. I know it. It's true. All of you really like idioms. But be careful using them, I guess I'd say, until you're super confident and you know that you're naturally using them. And then they can make a big difference. So think about how you practice, how you use example sentences, and how you get some feedback by using something like ChatGPT Voice. And I've made different videos about using something like ChatGPT and idioms to get some good natural feedback as to whether this is working for you or not. Okay, so that's the way I'd look at it. I'd look at idioms. I know everybody's interested in them. People always want more idioms as videos that I make. Just relax. There's no pressure to use them. You're good to understand, so you can understand native speakers, but be patient. It takes years to really become confident in them. Okay, so that's the way I would look at all of those. Let's wrap it up here. I've talked too long already. This video is longer than what you probably wanted to listen to, but I enjoy answering your questions, especially giving you some good detail about how you can really do these things. I really like this format, as I've said before. So I'll probably keep making a few more of these question and answers, try to get to all of your questions. And we'll see where that goes. So again, please keep asking questions. Some of you send them directly to me. Some of you put them in the comments, but just keep doing it. It's really interesting and makes for, if you have this question, other people also have this question. All right. Have a great day. I'll see you really soon. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share your comments, and I also invite you to learn your Business English Confidence Score. You'll find the link in the description below this video.